We open in the mess hall to find Ensign Pregnant is still busy being pregnant. Neelix thoughtfully asks how she's doing, then somewhat less thoughtfully drags her around the kitchen to make minor repairs. Baby takes issue with his bullshit and decides to register a complaint via the medium of going into labour. Word spreads quickly, and everybody up on the bridge is impatiently waiting for news. The universe provides a distraction by means of them detecting a significant number of Plague-Lad ships ahead of them. Based on our past experience with the Vidians, we've got a 1 in 3 chance of having a lung stolen, getting killed, or falling in love, but Janeway doesn't care for those odds and orders us into some special green fog so we can slip by them unnoticed. Baby's oblivious to this and has a little wriggle around, which would be fine but for the fact it apparently has a ridged head, which is now jabbing at Ensign Pregnant's innards, potentially causing internal damage. That doesn't seem ideal, so the doc instead delivers the baby by teleporting it out, and Jesus fucking Christ! Your original plan was to make her push those out of her chuff? You prick! Anyway, baby needs a little care due to the teleporter, but is mostly fine, and Ensign Mum, formerly Ensign Pregnant, now has a daughter. Celebrations are cut somewhat short, as the whole ship does a little shake after exiting that special green fog we were in. Something's gone fucky and we lose power in the warp core. Janeway sciences a solution to do with protons, but B'Elanna doesn't get the chance to implement it before there's a kaboom and we lose contact with engineering. Even worse, the power loss is affecting the incubator that Ensign Mum's baby is in. The doc soon has his hands full though, as walking wounded from engineering pop in and start bleeding all over the place, with more coming from another kaboom in the mess hall. Oh, and all this is affecting the doctor's projectors too, so that's nice. It seems we're being hit by proton bursts, which, coincidentally, is the solution Janeway suggested for the warp core, but we're not the ones causing them. We'd best figure it out soon, though, because it's proper fucking the ship up. Janeway wants to try that old reliable trick of magnetizing the hull, so we make preparations, but there's already a hull breach. Kim, B'Elanna, and Traitor's mates are off to patch it with a portable force field. They need Traitor's mate to give them some more power, but the console kabooms in his face, so that's that fucked. Back in sickbay, the incubator power loss is too much for Voyager's newest passenger, who dies. The hull breach that B'Elanna and Kim are fixing makes itself known too, sucking Kim to his death and... okay, hold the fuck up. Putting on my logic hat, the loss of the baby could be chalked up as a plot point to hammer home just how dangerous this journey is. It'd be a cynical plot point written by a cheap hack, but it's possible. Killing off a main character, on the other hand, is not going to fly, not least of which because I've seen the covers for later seasons and he's in the picture, so I'm calling time travel shenanigans or some shit. Anyway, B'Elanna gets back to Traitor's mate just in time to see Kes coming to treat his injuries. Or not, as she runs into a wibbly and disappears. After reporting this and Kim's death to the bridge, B'Elanna tosses a piece of debris through the wibbly, possibly hitting Kes in the head. She detects an atmosphere on the other side of the wibbly before scarpering with Traitor's mate because that breach is getting worse. Up on the bridge, shit is very, very fucked. We've magnetized the hull and that seems to be stopping the kabooms, but the computer is shagged, the hull has breaches, and the warp core is still losing antimatter. Tuvok chooses now to mention Ensign Mum's baby, which doesn't seem like the best time to add that particular nugget of shit, but Mulgrew's reaction here is well played in its subtlety. Janeway orders repairs and says she's going to see Ensign Mum, which is a nice nod to her humanity. She doesn't get the chance though as the kabooms restart, causing a breach near them. Chakotay evacuates the bridge, but as Janeway's leaving, she sees a spectral version of the crew with a copy of herself looking back. We switch to their point of view, which is from an unmarked Voyager without any damage. This Janeway describes seeing her doppelganger running into the lift and orders Kim, who presumably isn't dead here, to scan the bridge. He finds something but can't scan properly because the main sensor dish is being used to perform the proton burst thingy that Janeway on Fucked Up Voyager suggested, so I guess we know where the kabooms are coming from. Janeway on this Voyager thinks the appearance could be connected with that special green fog we went through a little while back, so gets Chakotay to scan through the logs for something screwy. While he's doing that, Janeway visits sickbay to greet our newest passenger, Ensign Mum's baby. Actually, that's a lie. The baby is their second newest passenger. The newest is the identical copy of Kes they found on Deck 15. After waking her, we learn that Kes from Fucked Up Voyager doesn't remember much after feeling dizzy while running down the corridor in her version of Deck 15. Hilariously, she was found unconscious next to that pipe I joked might hit her in the head, so, as far as I'm concerned, this is now canon. They also found a spatial rift on Deck 15, concluding this means there are 2 Voyagers. Kaz from Fucked Up Voyager explains what was happening on her version of the ship, and Janeway puts the 2 together, then orders B'Elanna to stop the bursts. Back on the bridge, Chakotay has found something in the logs. As they were going through the special green fog, there was a wibbly that seems to have made a perfect copy of Voyager superimposed over the first, and you don't need to question this because they used the word quantum, so it's definitely legit. Thing is, it copied everything except the antimatter, which is why they've each had power problems. They're both trying to use the same resource. If we're going to fix things, says Janeway, we need to get in touch with the fucked up Voyager. Back in sickbay, we're all doting over Ensign Mum's baby. All, that is, except for Kaz from Fucked Up Voyager, who's having flashbacks. She explains the situation about their version of the baby, and says she needs to get back there to help out. That's probably not going to happen soon though, as B'Elanna's struggling to make contact with them through the spatial rift, even after she and Janeway say a lot of science-sounding words. After throwing around some more, all of which feels very professionally written and definitely doesn't come across as padding, they figure out a way to make crude noises to catch the other ship's attention. I'm sure there's an excellent reason why they chose to do this instead of, say, throwing a probe through the rift set to broadcast a message on the other side. Either way, the noise they make gets the attention of Fucked Up Voyager, the crew of which does some science to it and establishes a video link so we can all have a chat. Janeway on Working Voyager tells Janeway on Fucked Up Voyager that they might be able to merge the 2 ships through a special science fart from the deflector dish. Tangentially, merging 2 ships when one of them is heavily fucked up feels like a pretty terrible plan, with a number of potential outcomes other than living happily ever after, but as the copious technobabble throughout this episode has confirmed, they're serious science people, and this is some serious science, so I guess we'll leave the experts to it. You know what? Fuck it, no, I'm not going to let that go. Here's a scene I'm writing right now that solves the above. But Captain, won't merging the 2 ships have unpredictable consequences, especially given that we're not identical anymore because of the damage? Honestly, yes. But if we do nothing, the antimatter shortage will shut down our warp core and kill us all when life support fails, and the same will happen to the other ship too. You're right, Captain. Also, I'm a dick. That took me about 3 minutes to write and 20 seconds to read. I defy you to watch this episode and tell me with a straight face that you couldn't find 20 seconds of it that doesn't need to be there. But again, I digress. They're ready to give the deflector thingy a try, after explaining that Fucked Up Voyager only has enough power to do this once, even after shutting down life support to all decks except engineering. A point to the director here, duplicating this shot on both Voyagers was quite a nice touch. We fire up the science fart. The 2 ships draw closer together and merge. Briefly. Then they spread even further apart and are forced to abort because they're breaking the connection to their shared antimatter. Oh, and we lost communications. Oh, and Working Voyager is going to lose power in 30 minutes because the antimatter thingy has got worse. We need to find another way to chat, but Kim has rigged a piece of tech so that Kaz from Fucked Up Voyager can go back through the rift without falling unconscious again. Good plan, says Janeway, with just one alteration. She's going too. Kaz from Fucked Up Voyager and Janeway strap flashing armbands on and go down to Deck 15. They walk through the rift and are immediately killed because life support was cut to all decks except engineering, which is on 10 and 11, and they just appeared on 15. Yes, I checked the schematics because apparently this is my fucking life now. Incidentally, I've added a link to these schematics in the description if you're interested. Anywho, for a pair of corpses, they look surprisingly good. The same can't be said for this version of Voyager, as Kaz tells Janeway it's even worse now. The 2 Janeways meet and have a little chat. Can't separate the ships because the antimatter will kaboom them. Can't evacuate everyone to Working Voyager because a matter imbalance of more than 5 people will kaboom them. And here we get the one part of the writing in this episode that I've liked so far. Fucked Up Voyager's Janeway tells her counterpart to go back to her ship and think of options. And Working Voyager's Janeway guesses that she plans to self-destruct her ship. After all, if she'd experienced catastrophic damage and lost some crew, she'd blow up hers to save the other one as well. I confess seeing a character psychoanalyzed by themselves is a fun diversion. There's a debate over the right thing to do before Working Voyager's Janeway asks the other to give her 15 minutes to come up with a solution. If they can't, Janeway of fucked up Voyager is free to make her own choice. Once back, they re-establish comms. Slight problem though, the Plague Lads, who we went into the special green fog to avoid, have turned up. Neither Voyager has weapons because of the power issues, so there's not a lot we can do when they start pooping at us, and even less when they attach themselves and board Voyager. It seems the one they've ended up on is working Voyager, for reasons that aren't explained, but that does mean they have 2 extra donors, so I doubt they'll mind. Pooping ensues, and Tuvok becomes one of the first donors, shortly followed by Paris. Plague Lads break into sickbay, so the Doc hides in his office with Ensign Mum's baby. Janeway on fucked up Voyager calls them and asks what's happening. Working Voyager's Janeway updates her on how bad things are over here and says she's going to kaboom the ship to prevent the Plague Lads getting them. She declines the offer of help from fucked up Voyager, as it seems the Plague Lads haven't detected them yet. There is one thing she wants to do first though: send Kim and Ensign Mum's baby over to fucked up Voyager. She orders Kim to grab the kid and get gone before setting the self-destruct for 5 minutes. Kim legs it down to sickbay and poops yellow on both of the Plague Lads in there. He grabs the baby from the doctor, who was still in his office, and scarpers. Up on the bridge, some Plague Lads arrive and Janeway greets them. For about 3 seconds. Then the ship kabooms, killing everyone, but leaving fucked up Voyager in its place. At the same time, Kim and baby walk through the rift. Both are fine, despite not wearing those armbands that we said were important, and I guess we've turned life support back on now too, because they're greeted by Tuvok, B'Elanna and Kez, all of whom are standing around and ignoring the serious hull breach on this deck, which B'Elanna said was getting worse, and despite looking at the face of the man who was killed by it. Later, we join Ensign Mum and her baby surrounded by smiling faces, before Kim has a little existential crisis, whilst raising the rather interesting point that this Janeway is technically not his captain, and we fly away while he ponders whether this means he can ignore orders he doesn't like now. End of episode.